What's going on, people? So, got this box in a little bit ago, sometime this morning or whatever. Get this knife out of here. So, I'm going to open these things up. And then, if I remember, after this part of the video, like the shoe part of the video, I'll sit here and talk a little bit about, what was it? Den of Thieves 2, and I guess Den of Thieves 1, because I just watched 1 last night and 2 today, right? Just got home from it, actually. It's late night over here. Not a huge fan of going to the movies like late because I'm usually like kind of in bed right about now. But it is what it is. They didn't have a whole lot of times to work with, so the only one in the Dolby Cinema was for 7, and it's a 2.5 hour movie. Add on roughly 30 minutes of previews and such, and so yeah, somewhat of a late night. So I'm gonna try to breeze through this. I try to do these lives like my normal reviews and just jump right into it, just knock it out. You know what I'm saying? So down there, we'll start with this one, the Supernova Prima, right? Can't remember which one is which. So I'm probably gonna have to. Okay, so I do remember that the blue one was the more expensive one, right? So the other one will be the Rise, which I mean it's a difference of like 140 to 160, right? So I guess I'll probably just bring these both out right now just to make this a little easier on me in some ways. Not so much when I do the timestamps, that's probably going to take a lot more jumping around possibly, but whatever. So there you have that, right? Supernova Rise. Right, so yeah. And this one should be greenish. Yeah, all right, cool. So things are looking right so far. Get these out of here, see what's really going on, make sure things are okay. And of course, as luck would have it, these like dropped in price today. Like I debated buying them for a while. Like, do I want to get these? Do I not? Whatever, whatever. And then I finally do it, and then they finally arrive after taking forever through the mail system. And what do you know? Like now they're cheaper. So whatever. But this is one of those things I wasn't really sure I wanted them so much because, like, for myself personally, just to give you a little info here, I don't really need them, but I don't see myself buying much of anything else to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Because there's just nothing super interesting. So I figured I did like the way the SL20s worked out. I like the whole light strike thing. It seems pretty nice. So even though I don't really need these, I wouldn't mind talking about them. And since I do buy this stuff and it stays with me, I need to make sure that whatever I get, like I actually kind of care to have it. You know what I'm saying? So me and these guys, we're in it for the long haul now because they're here. So, anyways, we're gonna start with the blue pair. All right, so this is the Supernova Prima, right? So we'll start down there with the bottom. Actually, across the bottom, one thing, and where are they? Pull these over here. So these across the bottom, one thing, I don't know if it says it or not anywhere. I don't see it, but they do have the light X traction or whatever that's called down there. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it's supposed to be like their newer traction stuff. So it's lighter, which is good, but more grippy, which is good also, right? So there's going to be that going on, and that's the same thing that was on these right here, the Adizero Adios Pro 4s. So same sort of technology going on. You kind of see it in the back there, light traction, right? That's what that's talking about. So these also have that. Anyways, moving on up midsole wise, as you see in there, dreamstrike, which is some form of their light strike. I'm not sure where it ranks, but I'm guessing not as high because this has light strike pro. So I'm guessing this is slightly inferior, but should still be pretty solid. Anyways, that's what's going on with it, right? Pretty decent look as far as I'm concerned. So you got that. And then moving on past that onto the upper, this is just going to be all meshed out like you would kind of expect from a lot of running shoes. That okay, for a second that looked silver in the screen, but anyway, so on the side, back in there, you got a couple of the Adidas stripes going on, which is the thing that they often do, or I should say a few because it's more than two. And then on the back, got a little more Adidas branding, and of course you got that same thing on the inside, a little bit more. So let's jump back over to the front piece here. So you do have a little bit of labeling down there, just telling you like this shoe model, right? Which is the same thing what I have yesterday. The Hyperion 2s, all this stuff is still out here, right? The Hyperion 2s have the same thing. The Nova Blast 5, which is just barely outside of reach. same sort of situation going on. And actually, if those were closer, that'd be handy right now because these at the top of the tongue, they do have the same sort of thing going on, right? So you have trying to get this. So you kind of have that little bend up there in the top, right? So they can hopefully sit nice on your feet and not be so stiff like those were yesterday. And then this is nice and padded as well, so pretty cool. All in all, it's looking pretty all right. I think they look like they should work out fine, right? And then on the inside just says supernova. So I'm gonna have to put these on in just a moment to see how that whole thing works out as far as sizing and everything goes. But I'm gonna first talk about these and then a quick comparison between the two, and then we'll do the sizing thing all together at the end. So this right here, prima, supernova rise, right? Supernova rise. So kind of again a very similar sort of thing that they're both doing here, right? This one, like I said, comes in at 160 compared to the 140 over here, which puts these in the same ballpark as the Nimbus 27 and the Kayano 31s. Those are 165, but I'm just saying it's close dollar wise. And I don't know off the top of my head what Nike has that's in that price range. The Pegasus Trail 5 is like 150, so I guess it's close to that kind of. But anyways, this being 140 puts it at the same price point as the Nova Blast 5 and those Hyperion 2s and the Infinity Run 4. Right? So yeah, a couple things sit at the 140 price range, which I never really noticed before. Anyways, midsole wise, well, we'll start at the bottom. Across the bottom, these have some other type of grip. I don't remember what it was, but it's not as fancy as the Ultra Traction or whatever they called it on the other pair. So there is that. Moving on up here to the midsole, right? This, it does say, okay. It says Dreamstrike down in there, but it's not really like a difference in color or anything, so you kind of have to look in there to really see it. And so past that, like I said, it's going to be a very similar look to the other ones because, they're both off the same line, just different tiers. And this one, you have more of a weird sort of material down around the bottom here. Kind of feels a little odd, these little plasticky bits that they have, these green dots, But otherwise, other than that, it's just going to be mesh, right? Feels a little bit different than the Prima does. The Prima feels a lot better, but for a $20 price jump, you would hope that it would feel better, And then moving up here, same sort of thing on the tongue here. It's got the Supernova branding. It has an inferior style in my opinion, just because I kind of prefer this look, but it's got a nice plush tongue, right? It's kind of thick, right? Not super thick, I guess, because that's what I was about to say, but it's not that bad. It's a little thicker than I feel like I would want, because for a running shoe, it's nice to have like the padding and stuff, but sometimes it just kind of becomes a little bulky feeling. I don't know. We'll see how it feels when I actually wear it. Sometimes these things don't really matter. They just look like they'd matter. And then on the inside, Supernova going on down in there. A little bit of branding on the back. They both look very much the same from the back side there. Kind of see what I'm talking about, maybe? Yeah. All right. So that's what's going on here. Now, real quick, some similarities, differences, whatever. So the one thing that I did notice is that the Prima, right? These have more of the light of the Dreamstrike in the bottom right. That's what they said on the website, the Adidas site, compared to the Rise. So that does make these a little bit heavier. So that's something. Also, these right here, the back, I forget what the exact numbers were, but it's going to sit a little taller also than you would on these. But the one thing that kind of is better in some ways with this is that across from the back to the front, the overall drop is only like 8 versus like this one was 10, right? Millimeters. Meaning that like you're just gonna notice more like being higher in the back on these than you would on these, even though this is an overall higher shoe. But otherwise, it should be more comfortable because it has more of the actual foam down in there, and it has a better mesh from what the website was saying, and you have a better traction thing on the bottom. So on paper, the extra $20 that you're spending to get these makes a lot of sense. And the I only saw these in like 3 colors, but I think all 3 colors that they had of the Prima was also on the rise. So if you don't really care about that, but you just like the way these look, you can get that same look on this model here and save $20, right? Which in which case you can go and maybe buy yourself some nice compression socks, right? I'm a big fan of those. I'm wearing a pair right now because I was running around a little bit earlier. It's a thing that I have to do more of than I would like to do right about now because the weather kind of sucks. So I end up having to go and run on the treadmill, and I'm not even a fan of the treadmill thing. Where are the laces in here? I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get these things out of here, and they're stuck down on something. All right, there we go. I don't know what these people were doing here when they were getting these things in here. All right, so let's go ahead and actually, is that thing still caught on something? What is this? Like, how did they? I have no idea what happened here. All right, there we go. So now I'm gonna try these things on, let you know what the fit sizing, and can't really speak on the whole comfort thing right now, honestly, because when you're sitting, like even with like the heel drop thing, like it's hard to notice because I'm not standing up, right? So, and I will say, just off the top, just putting these on, it's that tongue. It is nice and cushiony, right? That's kind of cool, but at the same time, it does feel a little bit bulky in here. So I'm not really sure how I'm gonna feel about that later. But again, that's a problem for later. But at least it doesn't have that same thing like the Hyperion 2s where like this part was like really just digging into my ankle. I was not a fan of that. I hope that breaks in soon because that if it doesn't, that's going to be a problem. But it's kind of part of one of those things, I guess. When you buy enough stuff, you start to get a little pickier and start to notice more things. So maybe that's just me. I don't know. All right, now getting these on. I figure if I wear one of both, that'll kind of make this a little bit easier. So that's what's happening right now. And right off the top, the Prima, like the 160 version, the blue pair, definitely feels better overall. Like everything about it. They both feel like a true to size fit. And just to keep my mind, I don't like holding these in the camera like this because it looks wrong, right? But I have this one on this foot and this one on this foot, so it's kind of a necessary evil in this moment. All right, so we'll start with these right here, right? They feel pretty good. I mean, as far as like the fit goes and everything, I went true to size because that seems to work out for me on mostly everything, honestly. And these, it's working out. It's not a whole lot of room. It's kind of a slimmer build. These seem like they have a little bit more. The Prima seem like they have a little bit more from left to right than the Rise does. But overall, I'm still good. And as far as front to back, that seems like there might be a little bit of room in the toe, but not enough to like consider going down. It feels like the right amount. You know what I'm saying? But overall, the difference in mesh on these do feel a little more restrictive in some ways. Not bad, not at all. It's just if you were looking for differences right now, it's a thing you would notice. Is it a thing that I would say is a problem? Honestly, right now I'm thinking no. It's just something that I noticed because I'm wearing 2 different pairs of shoes, right? This one you got a little bit more for like movability or mobility is the word that I want to say. As far as like moving your toes around and all that stuff, it's just like seems like just a looser mesh, right? It also feels like it might be a little bit more breathable too, but that's kind of hard to really judge right now. But as far as the sizing goes on these, also on the Prima, true to size is working out for me. Like I said, it does feel a lot better overall. I'll know for sure how I feel about it when I actually get up and move around in them. But you do also have, like I said, a little bit more room overall just in the toe box area, just because it does seem to be a little bit wider, or it could just be the fact that it's just a different mesh, right? Because like I said, these have that all this crap going on down at the bottom that these don't seem to have. So maybe that kind of plays into it. Otherwise, overall though, I can't really knock either pair. They both feel pretty solid. I would have to expect that like overall I'll feel like this one is better, right? Because again, all this stuff that the Primas have that the Rises don't, as far as like the extra boost, not boost, the extra dreamstrike in there, the like the better traction and everything. They feel a little bit more secure on your foot also. So there's that to be noticed, right? So all in all, like I like them both, but I'm wondering how I'll feel once I actually get out there in them, right? Because sometimes you have something that has like the extra cushion and all that, and then it feels, if it doesn't respond how you like it to respond, it's gonna feel like you're like really sinking in with each step. Whereas then sometimes when you have something that's a little more slimmed down, it feels like you're just moving through each step, right? So again, it's all in like how you run and like how your feet are. It's a whole thing, right? So I try to make sure I point out the part that is more like on my end and just of just like opinions and preferences compared to like when I talk about stuff that is fact based, right? Because there is some fact stuff that goes into these, and there is obviously some personal opinion because it is a review at the end of the day by whoever's saying it. In this case, me. So there you go. There's that. Moving this thing out of the way because it's kind of annoying me. So I'm going to do a real quick recap of these things and then talk about Den of Thieves too, right? So it I don't know if it might be a little spoilery, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. I'll try not to be, but whatever. So this right here, Asics, Adidas Supernova Rise, Adidas Supernova Prima or Prima. I'm guessing it's Prima. That sounds right, like prima donna. So either way, they're both very similar. They're both Dream Strike based shoes, which is some form of light strike, right? This one has more of it, thus makes it a little bit heavier. This one comes in a little bit cheaper though, right? They should perform close to the same. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. Otherwise, they have a very similar look and all that good stuff. More color selections over here. I saw like maybe like half a dozen or so. I only saw the three over here. So these right here, you're paying the 160. This, you're paying the 140. So it kind of comes down to how are these actually going to feel, at least in my opinion, because the looks to me are very much the same, right? Like I said before, the colors that I saw available for the Prima are also on the Rise, but not all the colors for the Rise are on the Prima, right? And these do overall just feel better. They still both fit fine at a true to size. I'm just saying the mesh that they have, and maybe even to an extent like the extra foam down there in the bottom, just a lot of stuff going on about these just made them feel better. And that thinner tongue, I think I'm just a fan of that. So there you go. That's what I picked up today. I have a couple more things coming around so that way I can start getting some of these reviews done. I like to do them in order because it just makes it easier on the order that I bought them in. So that's kind of the plan here. And once I get still waiting on some stuff from Asics. It's like you would often think that like what was ordered first would ship first, and what ships first receives first, what you would receive first, but that has not been the case. These things have been shipping at all kinds of crazy paces and arriving when like this was like the most recent thing I bought and it arrived first, right? Which is crazy. Either way, so there's that. If you got some questions about either of these shoes or any of the ones I talked about yesterday, leave some sort of comment or whatever so that way I can work that into a talking point in the actual review, especially if it's like something that might be useful to more people than just yourself. That's cool. Anyway, so this Den of Thieves 2 thing, right? The shoe stuff is over. If that's all you're here for, like you can leave. It's fine. I get it. So yeah, Den of Thieves 2, right? I've been seeing the trailer for weeks now, right? Because they keep showing it at everything. And I didn't realize until maybe like 3 weeks ago or something, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess I just didn't notice that it's a sequel because I don't think it actually said Den of Thieves 2. I think it just said Den of Thieves Pantera. I don't know. Either way, I didn't notice it was a sequel. So last night I was like, okay, let me hop on the HBO Max, right? It comes free with AT&T if you have a certain unlimited plans or whatever, and I do, so that worked out. Watching that, it's actually pretty good. I'm like, okay, this is entertaining. I like what's going on here. Nothing too over the top. It's holding my interest. A little longer than I want it to be right now, but hey, no big deal, right? But now I'm ready for part two, right? Because I like to go into these things having some sort of idea of what's going on, right? And so I'm watching it, I get in there, I'm seeing, and I already had some of the backstory, obviously, because trailers can be quite revealing at times. So I'm in there, I'm watching, it's kind of moving along at a decent pace. It's not too fast, not too slow. Like if you're going into it expecting to have like a bunch of like nonstop action and whatnot, real quick, there's a Jason Statham movie coming up called A Working Man. That looks like that's going to be a pretty good time. Anyways, so if you're going into this thinking like, yeah, this I want to see a whole bunch of action or whatever, not a whole lot really, honestly, because they're doing the whole building up the story, like introducing people and laying down the groundwork for that. And it's probably, let's see, the movie the movie runtime. If you subtract about like 50 minutes from the end, right? Because it was like 8:55 or something when everything started to really like kick off at the end, and the movie ended at like 9:45, right? So that's the credits stopped at 9:45. So, anyways, you back that up a little bit, about that much. That's when everything really starts to come together, right? So, if you're not paying a whole lot of attention, at least start paying attention then. Anyway, so that whole thing's happening, and it's got some little twists and some turns in there. They got to give you a little bit of suspense and whatever. But all in all, like I was into it. I liked how things were working out there, and it looks like if they want to, they could revisit this in a third movie. But at the same time, I mean, sometimes you don't want to do too much of something. You know what I'm saying? Just like leave it open to interpretation and move on. Nobody told the Saw series that, but whatever. Though technically, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Saw fan, so there is that. But still, like 10 movies, like that's kind of a lot. Anyway, so yeah, all in all, right, the movie is pretty solid. I was cool with it. I didn't like the fact that I had to go late at night because that also meant that like everybody was like off work and out of school or whatever. Usually I go like early afternoon where most people are like, at work still, so that way I can just kind of watch it and it's like not so many people there, and because later you get people that are like loud, oh my god, like doing all this stuff. I'm like, dude, it's not that serious, right? So yeah, personal preference. I guess I'm not always like a people person, but I think that has shown over the years, anyways. So yeah, if you're thinking about seeing it, I would go ahead and check it out. Right, you don't need to have seen the first one. You can kind of pick up where it's going, like where that went, the first one, if you just watch like the first few minutes of the second one, right? Because you can gather that like this guy and like this other guy, something happened and like this dude got away, right? Yeah, you don't need the details to enjoy the second one, but it does kind of help fill some things in. Anyway, so there we go. There's that. Covered everything I needed to cover for tonight. So, from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. I'm going to move on. I should really clean up this mess because a lot of stuff has been arriving and I just keep leaving it right here. It's just awful, honestly. So, maybe that's what I'll do before I go to bed. I won't. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm not even going to lie to you people. So, yeah, that's enough out of me. Thanks for stopping in, listening to my ramblings and whatnot. Yeah, like I guess it's something to do, right? Beats doing nothing, maybe? Or does it? I don't know. That's a question to be answered at some point. Later, people.